Hi, I'm Adam Duffus, the Managing Director of VA for You, and this is Task Me Anything, a podcast dedicated to helping you with VAs in your business. We started this business a few years ago with the goal of reducing wage stress within your business, increasing employee happiness, and driving productivity through the roof. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to Task Me Anything, a podcast from VA for You. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming an absolute powerhouse in real estate in Brisbane, Hayley Van de Ven. With 2 decades of experience, she has not only built one of the most elite real estate teams in the country, but also spearheads the Limitless Group, home to Remax Results, Remax Bayside. Under her leadership, 4,000 home sales have been transacted across Queensland. Her ability is unmatched. What's even more impressive, she has leveraged virtual assistants to strip $1 million of wages out of her business, all while doubling revenue. Welcome, Hayley.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
God, I did so much effort in that intro. I love that. I actually wrote something down for the first time in my life.
You nailed that. Goodness, I'll have to update my LinkedIn profile though.
I'll send you a copy.
Thank you.
We're going to start with some icebreaker questions so we can get to know you.
Yeah.
If your career had a theme song, what would it be?
If the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Oh, that's fully off the cuff.
You know?
Who sang it?
Oh, no idea.
I'm going to say Billy Ocean.
You would know it and you'd sing it way better than me.
I feel like it was Billy Ocean maybe. Lionel Richie?
You can break into song if you want.
What is the worst real estate advice you've ever received?
The worst real estate advice? Shit.
You're going to be our first episode with explicit written after it.
So true. I should watch my language. The worst real estate advice that I ever had, I think, was when I was younger. I allowed somebody to probably just sell me a dream of like what it was like, and it just wasn't like that.
Believe the bullshit.
Yeah, I believe the bullshit. I think I got sucked into lots of people that along the way that kind of gave a magic pill, because there is no magic pill, right?
There is not.
You just have to put in the hard yards.
If you had to sell a celebrity's house, who would it be and why?
I would really love to sell. I'd actually love to sell Chris Hemsworth's house in Byron. I think that would be awesome because he just seems like a cool guy.
And it would be like a $4 million comp? How much is that house worth?
Something incredible like that. But
might help.
Those sellers often become my friends, and I just want to be Thor's friend.
That's true. If you could swap lives with anyone in real estate for a day, who would it be?
Oh, I'd like to swap lives with my husband.
He
could see the shit that I do every day and then be like, oh, okay, not just swinging around in your chair.
Nice. Who's the best real estate agent you have ever seen?
Shit, that's hard because I have actually seen so many and know so many incredible operators. I think from a transactions perspective, the agents in Mackay in North Queensland, they just pump out the transactions like I've never seen before, and they seem to just do it with just such process and such ease, which I know that it's not easy, but I love the way that they, they can do like 20 or 30 sales in a month, and they're just like.
I often look at those regional guys and go, 180 sales in a year and go, oh my God.
100%, like how do they actually do it? And then from a like internal perspective, I have to say as a principal with almost 50 agents, I never get complaints about Kylie Harnish.
She is a weapon, absolutely.
She does transactions, like 120 transactions a year, so it's not like she's not dealing with enough people to make waves. But she actually cares, and she is as nice as she looks, but she's a fierce negotiator. So I think of her like the smiling assassin.
Good answers. This or that, real quick ones. Off-market listings or auction campaigns?
Auction.
Brisbane River or Moreton Bay?
Brisbane River.
Coffee before work or wine after work?
Both.
You've got to choose one. It's the
Coffee.
rules. Coffee. $1 million listing or 10 100K listings?
10 100K listings.
Scaling fast or scaling steady?
Scaling fast, because that's just what I do.
Nice. All right, we'll jump into the real questions now. You have scaled fast from 4 to 120 in just 8 years. What's the key to your level of growth, and how has it been so rapid? And then how do VAs fit into that success?
Lots of questions. How have we done it? I've taken really big bites and just chewed as quickly as I possibly could. That's definitely come with its lessons and certainly lots of pitfalls. But at the same time, like I've taken each of those, like moments where I fall on my face and going, okay, well, what can I learn from that? And how can I implement that so I don't do it again?
Yep.
So my biggest thing with like making mistakes is I know I'm going to make them, but how do I avoid making them a second or third time? Sometimes I don't learn the first time, but I am getting better. How have the VAs influenced that? This is my second crack at VAs. So a couple of years ago, probably 5 years ago, I tried to implement VAs into our business. We had a much, much smaller rent roll. Back then we would have been like 250 managements. And it was disastrous.
Yeah.
It was legitimately disastrous. We had all sorts of issues, and I probably burnt myself mostly, but I burnt my property managers massively too.
Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if any of those property managers would operate in a business with VAs again without hesitation. This time, the learning that I got from that obviously was having a clear plan and a training plan around what I wanted to expose them to. Having them in an environment like we do with VA for You, where we have someone on the ground that knows property management.
Yeah.
That was a huge plus for me, and it meant that if the property manager wasn't available, or if like kind of the line manager wasn't available for the VA, they could turn around and ask Emma, which was amazing, and that was really pivotal in the way that rolled out. Them knowing the system that we worked in. Back then, I think we were in Console. Before it was Console Cloud as well. So it was just like nightmare after nightmare of issues and having to try and connect to servers and
Yeah, I tell people the same story. I tried VAs 8 years ago, and then in my last business prior to this, it was just so pivotal that we had VAs, and then a chance chat between you and I around VAs saw all this be born, but it took a lot for me to try again with VAs, but technology has changed, internet speeds have changed, people's workflows I think have changed, and people are becoming more process driven. Where I used to be very fly by the seat of your pants driven. So
look at you making lists.
Now they have lists and processes. So yeah, I think the VA world has changed.
Yeah, it has been a dramatic change. If I look at the one thing that has been the most pivotal point in our business in the last 3 years, it has been the implementation of VAs.
Nice. You tell at your conferences, I often go and watch you speak, Hayley. You've saved $1 million worth of wages. Tell us about that. Like, where does it come from? Where are the aspects of your business where you're running VAs?
Yeah, no, it's legit. So I guess COVID probably changed the game for many businesses, right? We had a point where, we weren't eligible for JobSeeker for a second there, and I was like in panic. I was like, holy shit, or JobKeeper? Was it JobKeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, we're not there yet, but, it's a downward spiral. Like, how long is it going to take? What am I going to do to adapt? Emma was in Bali at the time, and, to send her laptop and be able to have her continue to work showed us that people could work remotely. And it was the first time, and obviously she wasn't a virtual assistant as such, but a fully fledged property manager just in another country.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons that came out of COVID was not only that, but it was also how acceptable that was for mainstream now, right? I often tell a story of Shamil, who I'm sure you'll have on an episode down the track. And Shamil was a property management assistant for one of our property managers, and he was really like on the ball. And because their time frame is slightly different, he was always working later. And so a salesperson came back one day and said, geez, that property manager that you got at Morningside's good. And I was like, oh, yeah, which one? And he goes, oh, Shamil. And I kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, why? Why is he good? And he goes, oh, anytime I send through like a maintenance thing for Shelley Street, like he's straight back to me in like 5 minutes. He's like, yeah, no worries, Peter, I'm on it. And even to this day, Peter doesn't know that Shamil was a VA and not a property manager in the office, because he was so well articulated. There was never a question of his expertise. And obviously, like I kind of just laugh because even to this day, he doesn't know that Shamil is in Sri Lanka.
COVID has been a blessing, obviously, for a lot of these virtual businesses. I play a lot of golf with 60, 70, 80-year-old men, and trying to explain to them what I do is really difficult. So the only way I can explain, if you have a staff member that works from home, they could work from anywhere. So essentially, that's how you explain it.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to explain to 70-year-old men what a virtual assistant is.
I bet. And I think that's the other thing too, right? Like everybody's expectation has changed. And sometimes when I say expectation, I mean like client. So the client's expectation is immediacy. And I, often hear and repeat that immediacy is currency. And, any business, the idea is like, how do you make money while you sleep? And it's like, well, it doesn't always have to be automation. We obviously use a lot of automation in our business, but people still expect a human response a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that is what I love about, the virtual assistants, especially like we've had some of our virtual assistants for like 3 and 4 years now. And I look back to that and think like they are absolutely a member of our team. They're not a virtual assistant. They are a property management assistant for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Culture and retention, something I will chat with Emma about, but you've got great retention in your business, great culture in your business, and from an outsider looking in or a semi-insider looking in, being able to give these people who are so incredibly important to your client's relationship, you're giving them a VA, you're giving them an assistant, you're giving them help. Is that what you think's key to this?
I actually don't. I think that culture, the culture piece, that's just who we are. But I think the support is certainly key to growth and leverage. Yep. So for our agents, like our salespeople that are wanting to level up their businesses, because not every agent wants to be $1 million rider, right? Mm-hmm. But if they can have a better lifestyle and write more money, if they can drop their kids off at school and write more money, if they can finish, at a godly hour and write more money, are they happier in their workplace? Absolutely. Do I have less drama to deal with? Absolutely. And the ones that are building out businesses that are a bit shaky or a bit worried about investing in their, sales business initially, the thing that I absolutely love about VAs is it's like dipping their toe. Like 30 grand a year is not a huge commitment. For somebody to go from 300,000 to 500,000, 30,000 is not going to take a massive whack out of it. And it's an invoice, so it's a tax deduction, right?
Yeah.
They're not having to pay them as an employee. And certainly from a business's perspective, particularly as you're building a business from A to B, there is an investment that's required in leveling up. And I always say to people, like, this is a good first step. Get a VA before you get an associate, because you won't spend more time training your VA than you will making money. Yeah. When you get an associate, like I see it happen all the time. A salesperson will get an associate and they'll spend all this time training the associate, and then they'll, like, all of a sudden their sales will start to go down and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Now there's 2 of them.
Yep.
It's because they spend more time training than they do being dollar productive.
Or take their associate to lunch every day.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, was that your trick?
That was what I used to do. Just come to lunch and someone come with me.
We'll do a strategy meeting.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like with a VA, they've got a very clear plan. They're at their computer 24/7, so they're just smashing out their work. Well, not 24/7. We've got to, give them some time.
8 hours a day.
8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And they're executing. They're not being distracted by building and pest inspections and photos and people walking into their office and whatever it may be. There's very clear KPIs on what they need to deliver. And after you've had that meeting with them in the morning to set up what the day looks like and keep each other on track and accountable, because you want to make sure that they're at the computer, but you also want to make sure you're at work. Like, I think that's great accountability for a salesperson too. Not fuck around.
There's no question. I reckon there's 5% of real estate agents that do 8 hours a day. At least if you could bolt on someone who does 8 hours a day, and if you're doing 6 or 5 or 7, you're way ahead of the rest of the team.
I think a morning routine is really important, right? When you set up the day, you're setting it up for success. Between the hours of probably 5 and 6, I send gratitudes to an accountability partner and they send them to me so that we are like constantly starting that day with that, like positive daily routine. And can I tell you, if we forget to do that for a couple of days, like one of us is back on it straight away because it sets up that day. I feel like the same thing for a salesperson and a VA in building a great relationship. If they start the day every single day with a meeting, then it's accountability to both of them, but it's also setting up the day to win.
I love that. I'm going to steal that straight away.
You're welcome.
So what's next for Limitless Group, and how can we get more VAs there? How are we going to grow this into Limitless more and more and more?
Oh, it's actually really exciting. We have quite a big growth trajectory over the next couple of years, and we have just taken on a new head of sales, so I'm very excited about that. Ben's a real data guy, which I'm not, so it's awesome to fill that hole for us, that he is going to step into that world. Which, after some massive inspiration from a broker meeting today, we really want to really focus on our data and refining it and cleaning it and making sure that we're nurturing it to its highest potential. So that's certainly going to mean that we're going to need a couple more data VAs in our business. But one of the things that I love about working with you guys is our callers. So because they're from the Philippines, they've got really cool Canadian accents, and they're really, really well received. One of the things that I've loved to, be able to roll back into our business is the 250 plus leads that we're giving to our salespeople every month that are coming from the VA business. I mean, that in itself is absolutely priceless and well worth the investment.
Warms my heart. Hayley, lovely having you here. Lovely being business partners with you. Lovely doing this ride with you. Can't wait for what keeps coming in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.